we have to take into consideration what are all the emotions. And so we dig into that person's emotions and we look at acutely what's out of balance and how acute is it out of balance, because for some people some things are extremely like fear, for example.
Hi all, I just wanted to jump in and say that the audio was not perfect, the internet was a little bit dodgy, but it is in no way inaudible, the show. I just wanted to let you know that if you find yourself becoming a little bit annoyed with some of the audio, that you might not hear a little passage, don't worry about it, hold space, be patient. Remember, nothing's perfect and we're all here to learn. Enjoy. Greetings, hello, good day, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the official Truehope Canada podcast, Truehope Cast. My name is Simon and I'm your host. Truehope Canada is a mind and body based supplement company that is dedicated first and foremost to promoting brain and body health through non-invasive nutritional means. Now more than ever, people are looking for ways to support their brain health, and this is a huge part of what we're doing at Truehope Canada. For more information about us, you can visit truehopecanada.com and find us at all the usual social media sites. Just search Truehope Canada. And everything we talk about today in this episode will be in the show notes that you can access at any point. Today is the 8th episode of Truehope Cast, and we've kind of come to the end of this current series. We've spoken to some amazing different practitioners and how they use their training and experience to support people with their mental health. Today, we are joined by professional biofeedback technician Lorella Zanetti. Lorella has been practicing for the past 14 years and is registered by the Natural Therapies Certification Board. Lorella received her training at the Quantum Center of Excellence, a division of the Quantum Alliance. She came to biofeedback after receiving treatments herself and realized the power of that energy work. Her practice is called Quantum Pathways, and her current research focuses on how diet affects the body, specifically with dementia, mental illness, autoimmune disorder, hormones, fatigue, and overall wellness. Lorella uses nutritional, homeopathic, and herbal supplementation in assisting clients on their road to wellness. Hi, Lorella. Thank you so much for joining us today. First question, as always, how are you doing?
Hello, Simon. I am doing very well today. Thank you. And how are you?
I am doing good. Yeah, it's a beautiful day in Kamloops today. Sun is shining, which is always a bonus, especially considering it's February 2nd.
Yes.
Yeah, but let's just get straight into this. I'd love to hear about your story, your tale into how you became a healer.
Okay. Well, I was always raised with the sort of philosophy that food is medicine and eating well keeps you well. Never really had a lot of medication in our home. Aspirin at the time was probably the biggest thing we ever used. So I've never been drawn to that. I've always been drawn to finding an alternative way of healing when I was not well. Thankfully, I have good genetics and I've always been quite healthy through most of my life. And I came across quantum biofeedback and the device that I use a little bit by accident. I was at a show helping a friend sell another product for a couple of weeks, and the people that were using this device were doing demos across from us, and it caught my curiosity, and I went over, and I was at that time in my life looking for something. I was looking for a change in career, something that I could really enjoy doing on my own time. And once I got tested, it really perked my my interest. I started to question what it was really all about. And then I heard a naturopathic doctor speak on it and how it impacted his patients and himself, and how he used it in his practice. And that really kind of cinched it for me. I kind of thought, yeah, this is resonating. This makes sense to me. This was really connecting with what I was looking for. It was a huge step for me because the learning curve was big, not having any background in in that. My background is really in marketing, management, and sales. So I didn't really know a lot about it, but I decided that I needed to learn. I had a lot of signs from different people when I asked for them that confirmed that this is the road I needed to take. And now I'm grateful that I did that. And I call this my passion work because I really find it extremely rewarding and satisfying in being able to help people with their health.
Yeah, it's a tremendously satisfying thing to do, to not only kind of find your calling, and a lot of people find that in a very serendipitous way, which is just, you know, the universe, in my opinion, working for us. And yeah, to come across that kind of technique or technology or whatever it is that you experience, and, you know, want to learn about it more, and then you get the ability to, you know, share that energy and share that inspiration and motivation that you found with other people, and watching people heal and become better, and not better, but become healthier, and, you know, heal and do all these wonderful things and kind of reach their potential, and just, you know, feeling awesome is a, you know, divine, is something divine within all of us that we all have the potential to feel and have the right to feel as well. So why don't you tell us a little bit about, you know, what biofeedback is?
Okay, so biofeedback, quite simply, it's a using energy and frequency to understand what is going on in the unconscious. On its simplest form, people are familiar with a lie detector test, or when you go to the hospital and they clip you with an oxygen feedback device on your finger. That's biofeedback, basically. And we're using galvanic skin response when we connect you to the device, and it uses a scan, basically, that takes a very short period of time, about 4 minutes, once you're calibrated to the device, and it scans over 12,000 different frequencies against your body. So I like to explain it kind of like a prick and react, but it's energetic. You don't feel anything really unless you're extremely sensitive to energy. And it feeds back what the stressors are in the body in an acute way and also in a chronic way, so that we can determine what is out of balance in the body and what needs to be addressed. And so biofeedback is really known as a stress reduction device. Even in traditional medicine, that's what they recognize it as, a stress reduction device, which is what it is, quite honestly, but it is using energy and frequency to do that. So
Cool. What does the device look like?
it's a small box. Some people compare it to a little toaster.
Okay.
It's nothing very complicated looking. It's what's in it that is, and how it connects to the software program. The software program is really where a lot of the technology is, and how that works, because that's where you see the multiple layers of the program and the 12,000 plus different frequencies that are built into the program. So when I talk about frequencies, everything in the universe has an energetic frequency, from emotions to remedies, to vitamins, to disease. And each item is measured and has been programmed into the device and into the software. So I'm able to test, vitamin A, for example, or any of the vitamins, essential fatty acids, as well as homeopathic remedies from all over the world, as well as emotions, which we focus on because like many other types of modalities, we want to look at the body holistically. So we take into consideration the emotions as well as spiritual issues that a person might have.
And what does an initial session look like with you?
So an initial session is about 2 hours long, and we basically start off by inputting the person's information. So it's kind of like tuning into a radio station. Your frequency is made up by your name, where you were born, and the date you were born on. If you happen to know the time, it's somewhat helpful, but it's really your name, your birth date, and your place of birth that makes you up who you are energetically. And we put that information in, then we calibrate. So we're calibrating the device, the SCIO device, to your body, and that takes about a minute. And then we run the test, which takes about 4 minutes. It'll vary from person to person slightly. The device that I have is the SCIO, and there are various devices out there. SCIO stands for Scientific Consciousness Interface Operating System. So it's basically using a very non-invasive, very small scan at biological speeds, really, because if you think 4 minutes, we're testing over 12,000 frequencies. It's pretty fast.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, and once we complete that, then we get a screen where we start to see where your imbalances lie. And yeah, I go through a series of different things, and the way I typically do it is I start with looking at risks, so categories of risk. We look at the different categories like hypoadrenia, cardiovascular, emotional risk. There's probably about 20 different risk categories, which starts to point us in the direction of what we need to start looking at for that particular individual. And then I look at minerals and vitamins, hormones in depth. We look at homotoxology because we need to look at what toxins are causing barriers in the body for allowing it to heal. We look at the emotions. We look at SAR codes, looking at the individual organs of the body and where we're seeing stress in any of the organs. And throughout all of this, we're also sending back energy and frequency. So I like to tell my clients typically that in the session, what my job is to raise your awareness, because we're actually tuning into your subconscious mind and learning what is going on with the body subconsciously. So part of my job is to raise your awareness. And the other part of my job is to reduce stress in those areas so that it allows your body a pathway to healing that opens up.
That's really cool. And do you do like a initial kind of like intake form or a health history that allows you to kind of understand where to kind of focus the attention of the machine and the frequencies?
Yes and no. I want to say yes. There's what we have on our device called a panel that is called suppression and obstruction to cure. So it's about 12 questions. There are things like, do you smoke? How much? How much water do you drink every day? How many organs have you had removed? How much coffee do you drink? They're kind of very basic things that, depending on the answer, are things that will suppress and obstruct the body's ability to cure itself. That's the only intake I really work on, because it fine tunes the biofeedback test. I will ask the client if there's anything specific they want me to work on, like if there's why they're here, basically, but they don't even need to reveal that, because sometimes people want to know, they want to see what the device uncovers on its own. And it's usually more than what they expected.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just to kind of, because I think a lot of people are unfamiliar with what biofeedback is, or kind of when we're talking about frequency and energies, because we like to kind of opinionate the world around us dependent on our senses, our very limited senses, and the things that we cannot see are sometimes things that we can't completely understand, and we maybe don't even really think about too much. If you really want to study quantum physics or quantum mechanics, it's a very arduous, long scientific process, because you're having to learn so much theory around this idea that we're not super familiar with, because we can't see, hear it, feel it, taste it, touch it. But I'm somewhat familiar with quantum physics and the very real application of energy and frequency medicine, and how it's all around us all the time and in us. And as you say, everything has its own frequency. Our tissues, our bacterias, our viruses, all of these things express a very specific pattern that, again, you can use these computer softwares. They know what the patterns are. And a few weeks ago, we did a show with naturopath Cameron Moffat discussing some of his work using an ETA machine and how this technology uses our incoherent frequencies to pinpoint where we need that help, that specific help. And, you know, they can really get pinpoint with where we do need that attention. And yeah, as I say, all cells, viruses, tissues have got a known frequency. And when these are weak or off pattern, we can basically fire in the right frequency to remedy an area. And I've tried to explain quantum physics, quantum energy to many people, and it's really difficult because, you know, it's a huge scientific topic. You know, we spent 100 or 200 years or something in the scientific community working off Newtonian laws, but now we've gone to this subatomic, lower, smaller than atoms, and we get into that quantum energy, that quantum field. Do you think maybe you could tell us a little bit more about what quantum energy is for those people who are really unfamiliar with it?
Mm. Well, quantum energy, like you said, it's the science of the very small. It's in an atom where we have protons and electrons. There's more space in an atom than there is actual solid particles, and so these spaces is where energy lies, right? And energy, it's not physical. You can't touch it. It's not material. It's something that we can't see, and it explains really the behavior and the matter in which energy interacts with atoms and substance and particles. I don't know if that makes sense. It is really hard to explain what quantum physics is. There's normal frequency ranges, and what we do is we have this measurement for all the different types of frequency and energy. So I mean, I like to compare it sometimes to people that do Reiki are using energy as well, energy healers in general, but it's a very I don't know. It's very hard. It's very high speed vibrations that basically result in energetic frequency, I guess, in an atom.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, the majority, well, not everything that we see around that we would consider physical matter, something that's solid, you know, the majority of that thing it is made up of energy, something you actually can't see, which is a kind of freaky thing to really fathom, to think about. But that's a scientific fact. There's no arguing with that, unfortunately. But let's get into biofeedback in your work and how that actually supports people who either come in with mental health issues that they want to use your work and your practice to help. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who come in with other things, and this technique and this technology is going to help you understand kind of where they need it. And I find a lot of people who do tests and see the actual data themselves recognize their own imbalances a lot better when they've got that kind of quantitative data. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how biofeedback helps people with mental health issues?
Right. So, I think most people understand that stress itself is probably the cause of more than 75% of disease in general. Unfortunately, in this day and age, everyone, including children, live in a very stressful world for a variety of different reasons, whether it's environmental things or food, technology. We're all just going at seems like super fast speed and trying to do things in life, and it brings upon stress and burden on the mind and the body. And so this is where biofeedback is a wonderful device, because it helps to reduce stress in so many different areas, and the brain being one of them. So one of the programs within the program is a scan of the brain. And I'm able to go in and scan for any type of imbalance in the brain. Most common comes up ADD for most people. Again, because we're just thinking so much about so many different things and being so bombarded by different things in our world that people are tend to be very attention deficit, whether they realize it or not. And so, as an example, it'll pick up on that. And what I will be able to do with that is to go back in and help to balance the alpha, beta, theta, delta waves, and help to balance that imbalance to create a more normal state in the brain. So that would be one panel that I would go into to help people with any type of mental illness, or anything as simple as even anxiety or ADD. And people with brain injury as well. This is where we would get to work and working to help balance the brain and get the brain working, and also the nervous system working to stabilize the sympathetic, parasympathetic, and vagus nervous systems, which all have an impact on all of that. So that would be one area to work very specifically with the brain. But again, we look at the body holistically. We have to take into consideration what are all the emotions. And so we dig into that person's emotions, and we look at acutely what's out of balance, and how acute is it out of balance? Because for some people, some things are extremely like fear, for example. And it brings up all the different things like fear and anger and aggression and greed, all kinds of different things that are going on with that person that they do realize to a great extent and that they don't realize. And then we also identify whether those emotions are in excess or are they suppressed, and use the neurolinguistic panel to help the person with their emotions and help them to balance. We go into the unconscious reactivity there, and we start to dig into past traumas, which also are a huge factor in a person's stress physically and emotionally. And we work on identifying past traumas. So it'll actually identify certain ages that a person would have had a trauma, what type of a conflict emotionally that trauma could have been related to, and how it's affected them physically. And again, we work in balancing that and trying to reduce the stress in that area. The device is also capable of identifying other programs in the neurolinguistics where we are able to stabilize, for example, blood pressure via emotions, things like that. The other things that I can do is work with energetic acupuncture. There's all Chinese medicine is completely built into the program. So there's like remedies for Chinese medicine, as well as the acupuncture panel, which works quite well. I go in and open up and balance all the meridians of the body energetically. And this helps tremendously in getting energy working and moving through the body more efficiently. We also can work with Dr. Hammer's work, which is German New Medicine, which deals with, again, people's traumas that occur in their life that have caused a physical problem. Dr. Hammer worked mostly with cancer, and his success rate in healing cancer was 92%. Just
Wow.
by identifying a person's conflict in their life and helping them to work with that and deal with that particular trauma that occurred in their life, and that cancer just leaves the body.
Yeah, that's super interesting, because obviously trauma itself can come from, an experience, whether that's a car accident or, something else happening to you, that, your body ends up staying in that frequency and that energy of that thing happening to you. Right. So say you're in a car accident, for example, an incredibly stressful experience on the body. And in our culture now, especially, we will kind of identify and experience that accident and that trauma for decades. If you were to take it into the animal kingdom, like a deer running away from a predator, it engages this fight or flight stress response to get away from that predator. And then, once it's kind of safe, it literally shakes it off, resets the nervous system, and goes back to chilling out and foraging.
Right.
But we don't have that in our society. That's a really good example of, going into the stress response to running away from a predator, which is a completely new set of biochemical interactions inside of the body, different frequencies that engage in a very, very high level, that are only designed to work for a very short period of time. And then once that threat or that trauma or that experience is done, we can then reset, settle back down, create coherent, balanced, parasympathetic nervous system responses, and kind of go back to normal. But we don't have that in our culture, because we do have this environment around us which is kind of go go go, busy busy busy. We've got so many external distractions around us which also engage our brains in stressful ways. Even just watching a movie at the end of the night, you might be lying down and your body's kind of relaxed, but your brain is having to process all of that information in a high beta, high frequency scenario, where we're not really calming our brains, and we're constantly in this stress response that we obviously hear so much about. And as you say, stress is one of the biggest predictors of chronic disease and long-term illness. And as you mentioned, ADHD, which is super interesting, because this whole environment that we've created for ourselves in our kind of Western culture is designed for us to have very short attentions, because we are in this stress response all of the time. And unless we're doing something conscious to change that, we will always be in that subconscious pattern, ruminating through our environment is triggering our stress, and our stress is triggering our behaviors, whether that's to have short attention or to be an anxious individual or a depressed individual. And all of these emotions, all of these states do have a particular frequency or incoherent frequency. And using this type of technique is so important, because this machine and the software can pick up where you are expressing these things. And if we're expressing these stressful, incoherent signals for long periods of time, that will, our body's not designed to deal with it. It's actually quite remarkable that it puts up with it for so many years. But again, our stress response is designed for a 3-4 minute situation, not days, weeks, months, years. So it's wonderful that this kind of technique is able to allow people to not only recognize and understand that they're living in this stressful response, and that is going to create a certain frequency which creates a state of being, but it also allows people to get that area of their body focused on using technology. And it's so great that this biofeedback machine is able to do that for people, and to pinpoint where their incoherences are. And I'm sure you see very quick changes in people, because they are stopping still and they're actually having that kind of reset, that shaking it off that deer would have, to allow their body to experience a different frequency that it's used to, that allows the body to heal, repair, and do all those things that it's designed to do, which is just to make us feel great.
Yes, exactly, Simon. Very well said. It really does do that for people, especially from a perspective of awareness, because I find that mostly my clients, when they come for a session, when they leave, they're almost overwhelmed with the amount of information that I'm able to provide them with. And but at the end of the day, they're also walk away more relaxed with a sense of well-being from the session itself, because we're able to try to reduce stress in the body, right? And a lot of these traumas that we talk about, they're often emotional traumas, more than physical, although a car accident would bring a lot of emotional trauma as well. But with some of this work that we go back to, we go into things like, a death, for example. In Dr. Hammer's case, he lost his son, which brought on prostate cancer for him. And he realized that there was a connection between the cancer and the trauma that occurred. And until he was able to resolve his trauma, did the cancer go away. but everyone is different. Like everyone deals with death differently. Everyone deals with loss differently, or a flooding differently, a flooding that would impact perhaps your kidneys. And this is where the connection needs to be made so that we understand what that particular incident that happened in your life and what it's done to you, and how you, having not resolved it, continues to give you a problem in that particular area or organ of the body. In his case, he actually is able to see by doing a scan of the brain where in the brain the scan shows an imperfection, which organ is actually connected to that. And by knowing the organ, we know the type of conflict. So it's very fascinating, but it's really important to address these things with people, because everyone carries things through their life that they don't necessarily resolve particularly well, and these are the things that cause stressors in the body, and need to be dealt with.
Absolutely. And I think that this practice, and honestly, over the past couple of months, we've spoken to acupuncturists, Chinese medicine doctors, nutritionists, and all sorts of different practitioners. And when you're going in for a session, whether it's for massage, acupuncture, biofeedback, it's actually quite rare in our week, in our lives, that we would spend an hour or 2 hours giving attention to ourselves and actually reverting, bringing back the energy that we put out into the world. Because obviously, we've got our families, our spouses, our jobs, our things that we need to do. That's always expelling energy into the outside world. And we very rarely sit and meditate, for example, or do yoga to actually sit with our own bodies and become conscious and bring that energy back to us. And with somebody who's had a trauma that's been living inside of their bodies and becoming part of their personality for so many years, this type of work allows their body to recognize it and to start healing it and becoming aware that that thing that happened to me 10 years ago is manifesting and physically happening to me. I had an experience last week. I was having a massage, some RMT work on my back, so I've got a little bit of lower back pain, and it's all in my. I keep it all in my legs. Is like in my upper legs is where I keep all this stress. And I was on the table, and I really try and breathe and become super aware and kind of check into my body. But over the last 12 months of this whole COVID thing, I have stored and suppressed a lot of frustration and even anger, and a lot of these kind of, I want to call, negative emotions that carry a frequency. I've experienced a lot of those, whether that's conscious or subconsciously, and I have stored it, and it sits in my legs, tightens up my quadricep muscles, and affects my hips, and then it gives me back pain. And I was only able to recognize and become aware of that connection when I was lying down on this bed, not moving, focusing on my breathing, and becoming super conscious of my body and my mind. And it was like an epiphany moment, because I was able to make that have that different thought and have that different process in my mind, connecting my mind and my body, because I was lying there, giving bringing energy back towards myself rather than in the normal outside world, kind of expelling it. And that leads into a question in regards to your work. Do you give kind of homework to your clients? Because they'll come in for a session and they will have this work done and they'll feel better. But what we often do is we will go back straight into our own habitual subconscious worlds, where we just, everything is, all the things we do are so repetitive that we're so used to. So how do you help people stay conscious and aware, and how that they can actually reproduce the healing that they're doing with you somewhat at home?
There's multiple ways that I do that. One of the things that I've used for years is homeopathy and nutrition. And the homeopathy that I use is actually the same. The products that I carry are actually programmed into my biofeedback system. So I feel that by attacking something with both the energetic frequency from the biofeedback as well as a physical product like the homeopathic, you're going to get a better result in trying to eradicate, say, parasites. So I use homeopathy. And so usually by the end of the session, I've come up with a list of things I need the person to do. So sometimes it'll be, buying enzymes, for example, for digestive issues or whatever. There's usually a few different things on the list the person needs to do physically. And then, yes, in other ways. So sometimes I will refer them to other modalities to help them with, for example, maybe they need a life coach or a psychologist, depending on what's going on, or a chiropractor, if they're in for pain. So there's different things that I might refer them to as well. And then, yes, I often recommend for many people that are dealing with stress and where their lives are far too busy that, slowing down and meditating. So, I always recommend they do guided meditations because meditating is not an easy thing to do if you've never done it before. And they just lose, they just don't do it because becomes too difficult. But I find that guided meditations are helpful depending on what they need. Yeah. So yeah, definitely there's a list of things for them to do. And then depending on what's going on, they'll come back for another session. So if they have something really quite acute going on, they'll come back perhaps every 2 weeks. If there's something not quite as acute or pressing, then maybe every month or every 6 weeks or every 2 months, depending on what it is that is going on with them specifically. And at that point, we reassess, right? And we look at, well, okay, now based on these things that they've done in that period of time, what do the numbers look like now? How acute are they? Are they coming down? Or, so I measure this to see that we're on the right path, that we're getting things done. The one thing we always need to address is toxicity, and my homotoxology panel gets into toxins like cosmetic toxins or asbestos or industrial pollutants, environmental pollutants, dental materials, all kinds of toxins that are present in the body, as well as pathogens. So your viruses, bacteria, amoebas and worms and fungus and prions and different pathogens. And if we don't remove the pathogens and we don't remove the toxins, the body struggles to heal. Okay, those things are like barriers. And so first and foremost, we get into doing that. We do it energetically using the biofeedback device, as well as, again, giving them something. So I'm going to use parasites as an example because I want to say that probably 75% of my clients will have some level of parasites in their bodies.
Wow, that's an incredible number.
It's huge, yeah, and people just aren't even aware. Doctors don't typically test for it unless it's a very acute situation. So, parasites they live and they survive on whatever we're putting in, right? So oftentimes people are nutritionally deficient because there are parasites eating up their nutrition, and they are tired and they're not well, and their digestive issues are huge. So we want to clear out the parasites. So that's an example, and probably the most common one that I'll see. The other thing I commonly see is, as you mentioned earlier, stress causing really adrenal fatigue and adrenal exhaustion. Most people have some level of that. Even young people these days, I'm noticing, are showing up with a bit of hypoadrenia and adrenal fatigue. And this causes a cascade effect in the body with the adrenals tripping the thyroid. And again, thyroid issues are rampant these days, and this trips up the pineal, pituitary, and hypothalamus glands in the brain. So these people are walking around with a lot of hormonal imbalances, not really knowing why. And really, the source of the problem is adrenals and stress. So again, coming up with a plan to reduce stress in their life and addressing healing of the adrenal glands to try to mitigate all of these problems that are going on with them. And right away, when they start to practice some of these things and start to take a supplement, for example, for adrenals, I'll see people within a couple of weeks already start to feel more energetic and start to feel a little more normal.
That's amazing.
So
Yeah. So
it's
yeah, this work can obviously help so many different people. And just to
mhm,
go back on the meditation piece, I think
mhm,
meditation is so difficult for most people because
yes,
it's the ultimate example of putting focus and awareness on yourself and bringing that energy back to you.
mhm,
And we are so addicted to using up all of our resources and becoming depleted on the things outside of us, whether it's our
mhm,
work, our family, our relationships, our responsibilities, all these things that have a level of importance. But
mhm,
if we're not refilling our cup of resources to deal with all the normal things our body does, and then throw toxins and nutritional depletion and pathogens and other things on top of that, it's going to be next to impossible. So yeah, meditation for me is like the best example of how you can restore and repair your energy. I actually personally feel really energized after a
yeah,
40-minute 1 hour meditation, because I'm literally, where you put your awareness is where you put your energy. And if you're
mhm,
putting your awareness on yourself, you are going to energize yourself significantly. And
mhm,
yeah, like, we're so addicted to not doing that,
mhm,
that's why meditation is like the ultimate workout for a lot of people,
mhm,
because we are so unfamiliar with putting focus on ourselves, which
yeah,
we absolutely have to be doing if we
yeah,
want to heal, thrive, and um, progress as individuals. I just wanted to talk about, so you've got a really wonderful affiliation with Truehope
yes.
Canada and Empower Plus. So can you tell us a little bit about how Empower Plus, our flagship product here at Truehope, has supported your biofeedback work and your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. When I discovered True Hope, I was at a health show and I heard David speak, and I felt an immediate draw and connection to what he was talking about. Um, at that time, which was about 6 or 7 years ago now, I guess 7 years ago, I had a number of clients at the time coming in, particularly with anxiety. That seems to be probably the most common thing that people experience: anxiety, but depression. Had a couple of kids with autism, things like that, that were a little more challenging to deal with for me at the time. And when I heard David speak, I thought, oh, this is the answer. So I immediately connected with them right away after he spoke at the booth, and started picked up some products from them, started using the products with my clients, and I was really blown away by how quickly they were responding to the product. Um, Everything from the anxiety, depression, and to a couple of the kids that had autism. The parents found that their behaviors changed. They were just more in control, and they were able to deal with them a lot easier. So it was really like truly like nothing I'd really ever seen before as far as a supplement goes. Um, it worked fast and it worked well. And so I continued to use it in my practice, and actually just refer friends to it. Even like I had, anytime somebody would talk to me about anxiety, I'd say, well, try this. So I was actually selling a lot of product for the company just as a small practice that I am at the time. And then when the opportunity came to rep for the company, I took it on because I felt that um, in my biofeedback practice, I can help one person at a time, and it's slow going, right? But with repping for the company, I could just help so many more people. And so I decided to jump on board with them 6 years ago this month, actually, and started repping for them part time, and it's been an incredible journey. The stories that I hear all the time with regards to the Empower and how it changes people's lives is so rewarding. It's and amazing. So yeah, it's been an incredible journey with this company.
That's awesome. Yeah. So it sounds like health shows are a good thing for you. Biofeedback and Truehope.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go to health shows because
Go to
you
health
will be
shows.
exposed to wonderful people that connect with
Yeah.
you. That's really cool. Have you got a particular client story that stands out for you with Empower Plus?
Um, well, there's a few, but I don't know. I go back to this autistic girl that I had who um, she wouldn't eat anything. That was the problem the parents had actually with trying to get her to take the product, and it got to the point where the mother literally opened the capsule and cooked it into a pancake. And
Wow. Okay.
even at that, which always amazed me, because she said even with using it like that and heating it up, it was still having an effect on her. And that always stayed with me because I thought, well, this product is just like, wow, not too many things can do that. So yeah, she's great, and she continues to use the product after years of being on it. I've got a few kids like that really has made a big difference in their lives.
Just remarkable. Yeah. And right now, our youth is really in need of
Yes.
micronutrient support. I'm
Yeah,
hearing,
they're starving for it.
yeah, I'm hearing every day of kids as young as 10 self-harming, going
Yes.
into the emergency room,
Yes.
especially in the last few months in regards to like kind of what's happening with COVID. And obviously it's absolutely tragic that these such young, wonderful, innocent individuals are being not only, not only nutrient deficient, but deficient in human connection and being
Yes.
outside and all of the very important things that make us human. You take those things away,
Mm-hmm.
things in the brain, thoughts, patterns will become incoherent, and behaviors will become, not normal.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think it's so important that we really recognize that our children are suffering significantly right now, but there are things and practices in place and supplements that are so harmless,
Mm-hmm.
that are only going to do great things, that come with no side effects, that will really support people very, very quickly. And as you say, everybody, especially now, can benefit from a product like Empower Plus because we're all experiencing stress on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Our food is depleted in nutrients. We are being hammered with Wi-Fi's and signals and cellular, all over the place. So it's kind of unavoidable. So we have to be supplementing, in my opinion, to really get the best. How can people connect with you for Truehope as a rep and for your biofeedback work?
How can they connect with? Sorry.
How can people connect with you for Truehope?
With me. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. They can either reach me. Well, my website is actually under new construction now. So my website is Road to Wellness. That's road with the number 2 wellness.net. You can reach me with Truehope at my email is lorella@truehope.com. And either way or by telephone as well. Anyway.
Perfect. Yeah, we can put all of that information in the show notes so people
Yeah.
can connect with you, no problem, whether they're looking to get some information. And you're in the Vancouver area, correct?
This is correct, yes.
Yeah, perfect. So if anyone's interested in connecting with Lorella in regards to Truehope Canada, yeah, you can go to her email, and the biofeedback will put the link in there as well. But that's going to kind of wrap it up today, Lorella. Thank you so much for taking the time with us today.
Thank you, Simon. That was a really great experience. And yeah, thank you for all the work that you're doing with Truehope. We really appreciate you.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for listening, everybody. Next week, we've got a really special episode with the VP of Operations at Truehope Canada, David Stephan. Lorella just kind of mentioned him. That was, a talk by him at a health show was really her catalyst for getting involved in this wonderful company. And him and I are going to be talking about the amazing history and incredible Truehope story that really is fascinating. And yeah, I think you're really going to enjoy that one. So that one's coming up next week. We will see you then. This is Truehope Cast, the official podcast of Truehope Canada. We will see you next week. Goodbye.